All right, superstar 7th graders getting closer and closer to moving on up to 8th grade. Very exciting. So, just to have a little bit of information I want to refresh with you before we kind of wrap things up. And it's kind of related to what some of those initial results came back to. And I do remember that students struggling a little bit on your circle information. Some of it was due to vocab, some of it was just due to practice. And we should be able to rock together. The great information about this is that you'll continue to use it directly in in 8th grade when we're talking about volume. Part of our information is working with that circle. So for example, if you think about a can, which is a cylinder, you've got a circle at the bottom, or if you have a cone, like a fancy sugar cone for ice cream cone, got a circle at the top. So we will continue to use that, but it's based off of your 7th grade information. So hopefully you have something ready to be able to rock, and you're going to see that we're going to be using a calculator like many of you have been using, but I'm going to show you specifically something a little bit different. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, quick reminder, some of you struggled with this with some basic vocab, the difference between the radius and diameter. If you remember, diameter, that is that full distance going across. So let's say, hypothetically, our diameter is 10. And that might be something like 10 meters. Again, that's the distance all the way across. It's supposed to pass through the center. Mine might be just a little bit off. But again, just a quick sketch, you see diameter is that full distance. The radius, however, is not the full distance. It is only half the distance. So for example, if this is the same circle and you know your diameter is 10 meters, then we would say that our radius is simply 5 meters. One thing that we need to remember, especially as a future 8th graders, is that sometimes students don't read the instructions very carefully. So for example, in 8th grade, after you have solved your problem, you reread the question, and it's asking you either, do you want to find the radius or do you want to find the diameter? And unfortunately, a bunch of my 8th graders lost some of that knowledge and points for their grade is because they didn't fully read the instructions. So for example, let's say they found the radius, but the question was actually asking about the diameter. Got to be really careful there. All right, so we're just going to do a few problems, and we're going to go ahead and practice writing it out, but really going to show you that calculator information. Because on your homework assignment, the answer is given to you. You might get a slightly different answer if you don't take my suggestion on what to do. So we're going to start off with our first few problems simply with the half mark, which again is called the radius. So let's go ahead and say that the radius is equal to, let's say, just 4 centimeters. So our formula for the area of a circle, remember, is area is equal to pi r squared. So what I'm going to ask you to do is simply the following. A is equal to, we're going to substitute pi. Actually, we're going to leave it as pi, but our radius is 4 centimeters. So I'm just going to say 4 squared. Now, sometimes in 8th grade, we are asked to leave it in this form here. We're talking more about volume in 8th grade. But again, this is an exact answer. It's exactly what the area, or in 8th grade, the volume is equal to. What we're going to do, again, is find the approximation, and we're going to put the little wavy there. So again, it's simply the radius squared. Now, if you don't have the radius and you unfortunately have the diameter, of course you're going to get it wrong. Now, what we practiced in class was multiplying simply by 3.14. But what I'm going to ask us to do is something a little bit different. So if you have, at least I know this works with an iPhone, if you open your calculator app and you rotate it horizontally, it changes into your scientific form. Or you can just go ahead and open up the calculator app on your computer or find one online. And we're going to switch from standard and we're going to go to scientific. Now, if you notice that either on your phone or on the computer, there is a pi button. And when I press it, it is not 3.14. The calculators and the computers are able to multiply it a lot more quickly, accurately than what we can do by hand, because if you notice, look at all of these digits. And again, pi is continuing on. It's an irrational number. When they find their digits, they're like on the millionth digit right now. Some supercomputers doing it. Why they're doing it, I really don't know. Traditionally, we just use 3.14, but as you get closer to 8th grade, high school, college, and beyond, again, you're going to focus on that pi symbol. So again, it's going to be either accurate answer with the pi symbol, or we're going to go ahead and adjust it and try with our pi button. All right, so let me clear it out. I don't even know how to do that. There we go, clear entry. Okay, so our answer again was 16 pi, so I'm going to type that in as 16 multiplied by, and we're going to go ahead and press the pi symbol, and it'll do the multiplication for us once we press that equal sign. So what we practiced in class again was rounding to the nearest tenths place. So we've got 50.26. So again, this 6, does it round the 2 up or does it stay a nice 2? So remember, the rule is 5 and up, round up. So since it is a 0.26, it is going to be a 0.3. So my answer, I'm going to write it as 50.3 centimeters. And again, since we're talking about area, it is square there. So again, quick information on 16 pi. Now, since our number 16 really isn't that big, let's see if there is a different answer that we would get if we just did 16 times 3.14. 50.24, but remember, we rounded to 50.3, so slight difference. Nothing super accurate with what 7th grade is requiring. But again, if you get into your advanced math later on, or even knows, maybe working for NASA or a high-end company, again, if you don't round it correctly, read the data correctly, could make a big difference in whatever's going on for your work. So let's try the next one. Let's say that we simply have, maybe a decimal. Maybe 1.7 meters. Our formula again, area is equal to pi r squared. We're going to leave pi again. Our radius is going to be 1.7, and we're going to square that. Remember, we're in our accurate answer. So if you can't multiply that in your head, feel free to go ahead and use the calculator. So I get 1.7, and then I've got a square button right here, or you can just multiply it by 1.7 again. So square, 2.89. So I really have 2.89 pi. And again, that's my accurate answer. Now I've got my approximation answer. Now, the nice thing again about using the calculator is you still have your 2.89 recorded in your calculator. So I'm just going to go ahead and multiply it by, and we're going to go ahead and practice the pi symbol again. So I'm just going to go ahead and do multiply, pi symbol, equal sign. Practice my rounding, 9.079. Well, we can look at here, 9.07, the 7, 5 and up rounds up. So we're going to write it as 9.1, and we're going to say meters squared. Beautiful. So again, that is when you are given your radius. And remember, the radius is the half mark. So if you are given the diameter, which is what we're going to practice on our next few problems, you got to do just a little bit of work like we did in class. We're going to go ahead and change it. So let's say that our radius is actually, let's say our diameter is 16 inches. So you're going to see that on your worksheet. So when you're doing your work, you're simply just going to say the radius is 8. And again, I kind of interpret that as like the pre-work, if you will. Because again, we need to go ahead and remember that the area is equal to pi r squared. We save pi for dessert. I've got 8 squared. We should have that memorized. 64 pi. Accurate answer. And then we're going to go ahead and find our quick approximation with the little wavy line. All right, so looking at our calculator, clear entry, 64 multiplied by pi symbol, equal sign. Practice our rounding, 201.06. Again, another one, 5 and up, round up. So it's going to be 201.1. And this time we have inches, and don't forget inches squared again. If your units are incorrect, your answer is incorrect. So you got to be really careful there. All right, last one real quick. Let's say that the diameter is 11 feet. So the radius is going to be equal to, you just take half of 11, So 5.5 feet. Pi r squared. Radius is 5.5. Now again, you're going to have a bunch of decimals here, so we're going to do our best. Hopefully our calculator can handle it, which of course it can. All right, so we're going to do 5.5 and squared. Hey, not too bad. 30.25, right? So we've got 30.25 with the pi symbol. All right, go ahead and multiply that by your pi button. So we're going to do times pi equal sign. 95.03. Oh, okay, so this time the 03, the 3 is not 5 and up, round up. So really, we're just going to go ahead and write it as 95.0. And I would like to see the 0 there. You know, mathematically, it's not required, but it's just good practice because our directions are asking us to round to the nearest tenths place. The 0 is representing the tenths place. So we've got feet squared or square feet. So again, most of it is just calculator work, and you are practicing again, knowing the difference between the diameter and the radius. And that's where some of you lost some points. Now, if you remember back, you did have a lot more complicated problems during the normal year when we were in class. But right now, again, just trying to give you some quick review problems, get you one last assessment to try and get some good points to bump up that grade right before our year is coming to a close. All right, submit your best. Do any question or send any questions you may have, and continue to be awesome.